Hello creatives, welcome to my channel. For any of you who are new here, I know I have quite a few new subscribers. Thank you. My name is Angela. I'm a graphic designer and an illustrator. I create videos on how to help you learn to illustrate and design. I have like playlists all over my channel. Today, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be creating some Squid Game characters. Now, I do have a 10.2-inch regular iPad and a original Apple Pencil. If you guys like these videos, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. Everything else that I have available is down in the description box down below, as always. So let's dive in. I am in the Illustrator program right here. What I want to create is kind of something fun for social media. So I'm going to be doing a square artboard, which means that it's going to be slightly different than the other videos I've created because this is for social media. I think I did another social media one not too long ago, but I'm under illustration. So we're going to create, I'm gonna say, let's do 800 by 800. That's a decent sized artboard. It's going to be an RGB because it's for social media, and the title is going to be Squid Game Imposter. If any of you have seen Squid Game, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments. Yeah, it was interesting. I watched the whole thing and wow. Wow, maybe not in the best way, or maybe not in the best good way. There's a lot of, it's gruesome. I wanted to create the Squid Game characters as imposters because in the show there is an imposter, and I'm not going to do any spoilers. So if you want to see the imposter, go watch Squid Game. If you would like to, you don't have to. It's quite gruesome, but Squid Game Imposter is going to be my title for this illustration. So here we go. We have our artboard. Let's start our Squid Game characters. Now in the show, it's on Netflix, everyone. In the show, each Squid Game crew member, I guess you would call them, has like a different shape outline on their like face covering, which is like full face covering, so you can't tell who the person is. And there's like a circle, a square, and a triangle. So I'm hoping to do each one of those as our own little imposter characters. If you haven't guessed already, it's going to be in the style of Among Us, hence imposter. I'm going to do each one. Two of the shapes are the same color, but one of the shapes of the characters is not. So I think I might do two the same color but slightly different shades, like tones. And then one's going to be the completely different color. Open up a layers panel right over here. It's the first icon. Add some layers right now because I don't know how many layers I'm going to use. I was thinking about putting them in a scene from the game, but I think I might just use a solid background with some effect on it. So let's choose the first layer, which is going to be our background layer. And I'm just going to choose this deep dark purple for the background. Dark purple for the background. Now this purple color that I chose is reading lighter on camera than it is on the screen, but that's okay. Just imagine it slightly more saturated and slightly darker. Now that we have our base, I'm just gonna double tap the layer name, call it background, lock that in place. It's very, very handy to lock your layer. I did mention this in a previous video that if you don't want to select anything, make sure that you lock your layers. Even with like a glove on, you can still make selections by accident, even just from moving stuff around the artboard. Let's go to layer 2, and we're gonna start with our first character. Start with circle because the first characters you see from the Squid Game crew is the circles. They're kind of like the lowest rank. It's kind of militaristic, that's what I'm gonna tell you. It's a little bit militaristic. Yes, okay. The circles are at the bottom. They're kind of like cadets, and they just take orders. The squares are the ones who give orders, and then the triangles are the highest. They're kind of like the sergeants, if you will. They are above the squares, and they give the squares orders, and it just goes down the ranks like that. So circles first. Double tap layer 3, I'm going to call it square. Double tap layer 4, I'm going to call it triangle. There we go. So now we have our layers named. It's always easier to name your layers first and then start illustrating so that you don't lose your place of where you're at. All right, so let's go to the circle layer. And they have a very interesting color for their hoodies because they wear hoodies. There is this beautiful defaulted magenta color that I kind of really like. So I think I might just use that one. I know in the game it's like red. Well, you know what? Let me add some more red to it then. In the color swatches over here, you can always choose to add a little bit more of a certain type of color in there by just dragging around this outer circle here, this outer ring. You can always just drag it over slightly and it gives you more color tonal ranges. Okay, so I'm gonna add that swatch to our little arsenal here. Oh, that kind of is in between. Okay, that works. So I'm going to use this one for circle, this one for square, and then you'll get to see what we use for triangle. So I'm going to start with this color. I'm going to use the pen tool because the pen tool is going to give me the most customization out of anything. Let's choose our pen tool, which is right here. I'm kind of going to do them in like a rank setup. So go right here. Now the Among Us style is very simplistic, so I'm going to keep this pretty simplistic. The little like visor thing is what I'm going to make as far as like their mask. I'm going to fix these points by choosing the point selection tool and moving the points around. So for the visor, I'm going to use this square shape tool right here. It is defaulted. Instead of using this beautiful pinkish red that we chose, we're going to choose black. And I'm just going to make a nice big visor for him. I'm going to move it into place. And you see this, let me zoom in a bit more. You see this like white circle with a little tiny blue dot in the center? If you tap and pull on that, it rounds out the corners of your shape. That way you can get more customized shapes a little bit quicker. That's our visor. Double tap out to deselect. So that's our little character so far. And now we're going to just put a circle in there. So double tap your shape tool, select the circle or sphere tool. I'm going to swap my fill for my stroke by pressing on these like these opposing directional arrows right here in between. And it just swaps them. I'm going to choose the stroke and I'm going to put it as white. Now we're going to create a perfectly constrained circle. And the way to do that is to hold down this touch selector here and then draw your circle. There we go. Release the touch selector when you're done. Now this stroke line is quite tiny. We need it a lot thicker. There's a quick selection menu right here, and the second icon is for stroke weight. So the stroke weight, if you tap on that icon, you can pull it to the right to make it thicker, and it tells you the stroke width. You can pull it as far as you need it. There we go. Tap on the symbol again, and then you can go back. Double tap out, and you can deselect the shape. So there is our first little character. We're not done with him yet. We're gonna come back to him and create some nice lighting and shading. Since we already have him as our base, we're going to duplicate him to save ourselves some time. Alright, so let's go ahead to our layers panel. Just select it by just tapping on it. Duplicate the entire shape, everything that's selected. Press this double page icon in the quick selection menu, and he's duplicated. Let's group him together. We'll ungroup him later. We're only grouping him together so we can drag and drop him into the square layer. Now to move things from one layer to another on the iPad is a little bit different than on the desktop. On the iPad, you have to expand both layers by tapping on these little teeny tiny arrows on the side, drag and drop. It's very simple. Now that we have our circle layer done, we're going to lock that layer so we cannot select him, and then we're on our square layer. So let's ungroup him. Actually, no, let's keep him grouped first. We're gonna move him. Let's move him over here. Now let's ungroup him by pressing that icon that has multiple shapes inside of a square. Double tap anywhere to deselect him. Let's zoom in. This shape here is going to turn into a square. Select that shape, delete it, choose our shape tool, double tap to get the square. Hold down your touch selector to constrain the proportions to make a perfectly constrained square. Put that there. And as you can see, the Illustrator program is so smart that it does pick up your last stroke width or stroke weight from the previous shape that you created last. So that is very nice to have, because then you don't have to go through the whole process all over again. I did say that we were going to change the color of the square from the circle as far as like their clothing. Let's choose his body, choose the fill color, and we're going to choose like this darker color because he looks a little moodier. There we go. We have both of our little characters, and then we are going to make the triangle character. So we're going to do the same process. Let's select everything. You can select not only by tapping on the layer itself in the layers panel, but you can select everything by dragging your Apple Pencil across the artboard over all the shapes that you want to select. Duplicate it first, group it together, and then just like we did before, expand both layers, drag and drop into the next layer. Let's lock our square layer, and now we're in triangle. So let's move him over, put him over here. Now this is supposed to be a triangle, so let me ungroup him by selecting this icon down here, deselect by double tapping out, and then we can create his little triangle. For the triangle, if you double tap on the shape layer, there is a triangle shape defaulted, which is so handy. Choose that shape tool. Go ahead and choose your square here. Let's press the little trash can in the quick selection menu to delete it. Choose that triangle shape tool. Again, use your touch selector for constrained proportions. There's a little touch selector right here. Press and hold on it with your finger, tap and drag, and you get a perfectly constrained triangle. Double tap to deselect. For the triangle, their outfit is a bit different. They don't have to wear bright colors. They're all dressed in black. So I'm going to make his visor gray instead of black. Let's choose his body. Let's go to black. There we go. He's the one who's calling the shots, you know? All right, let's rearrange these guys. I'm going to make it very easy on myself. I'm going to use the layers panel to help me out. You kind of get their rankings first. The triangle's the most ranked, and then you have the square and then the circle. Now we're going to add some lighting and shading to this to make it look like it's popping. Underneath all of them should be a shadow. Choose our layer 5. I'm gonna drag and drop it in between the circle layer and the background layer. I'm gonna double tap it, and I'm gonna just call it shadows. There we go. And we're gonna create some shadows. Shape tool, double tap, get the sphere tool. We're going to keep the shadow black, and we're going to create unconstrained shapes now underneath each character. I'm going to choose everything on the layer, so I'm going to select the layer. And in the properties panel, go into blend modes right here. We're going to see what these look like. Oops, soft light looks great. All right, so we're going to do soft light. We're also going to bring down the opacity a bit so that way it looks like shadows. Let's shape build the shadow shapes so that way they're not overlapping each other as they are. I think this is looking quite good so far. Let's go to this new layer, layer 6, and we're going to call this lights. And we're going to create some lighting coming from this way, from behind them. I know in the game Among Us, there's usually some accessories that the characters have, like on their heads or following behind them. However, with Squid Game, all the accessories are weapons. So I really don't want to put that in here. I don't want to put weapons on them. I could, oh, you know what I could do? I have an idea. I was thinking about like the hints for the games in the film. Okay, we're gonna do the lighting first, and then we're gonna go into the little accessories that I think we can do. All right, we're on layer 6, which is now called lights. And for this little circle character here, so let's choose his body color here. To choose the light, I'm just gonna take this color selector, this color sphere here in the center square, And I'm just gonna pull it all the way over here. Now I'm gonna add it as a swatch just so I can reselect it later. Select my pen tool and I'm going to create the lighting area right over here. So tap and drag to get my points down. Don't worry if the line doesn't match up, it will. In this situation up here, we have this happening, but we don't want that to happen. We want it to be like a sharp point. So we have to what's called break a handle. Now these are the handles here and here. In order to break one, let's choose our second selection tool here, which is the point selection tool. We're gonna choose our handle. I'm gonna choose this one. Hold down your touch selector with your finger and then tap and drag and pull the handle over. And that's how you break handles, so that way you can swap directions for your handles in Illustrator on the iPad. It's a very, very, very handy trick. I use it quite a lot. There we go, there's our light. Now, the great thing about this is that since all the characters are the same shape because we just duplicated them, we can duplicate the light as well. So we save ourselves a lot of time. And with this one, it's gonna be a really, really light gray, I think. Some more blue in here. So it gives you a bit of a tinge. That looks so much better, doesn't it? Now that we have our lighting, we're going to do shadows only on circle and square because you can't really do shadow on top of black. So I'm going to do it on these two. We're going to do that on a new layer. So in the layers panel, create a new layer by pressing the plus sign, and then we're going to double tap that layer, name, let's call it shading. I could probably get this all done in one shape. That would be ideal. So let's try it. Choose our pen tool. Select our fill color. You can go one of two ways. You can go diagonally across towards black, or you can go down. So let's try this one. I think this one looks quite cool. Add it to my swatches, and let's see if we can't get this as one whole thing. Now he has a shadow on him. So now we can take the shadow and duplicate it across to the square. So let's duplicate it and move it over. Now it's not going to look very good on him as it is. Let's select his body color. We're going to select the shadow once we have his body color. We're going to make it his original body color, and then we're just going to bring it down and diagonally slightly, just so you get a deeper, richer tone. There we go. So now they look a little bit more intimidating. They have some light, they have some shadow. Now for the accessories. I'm going to do, I guess, like some hints to what games they played in the actual show. Let's do red light, green light over the circle. Create a new layer by pressing this plus sign. Red light accessory, just so it's specific. Let's choose our sphere tool, and we're going to create the red light and green light. So here's red. Hold down our touch selector for constraint proportions. Red light. Duplicate the circle, bring it down, and then we're going to make this green. There we go, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much the exact green. Okay, there we go. I know it probably shows up lighter on the camera than it does here, but it's red light, green light. To make it look like a light, let's choose a gray. Go into our square shape tool. Now I'm not going to hold down the constrain proportions because I don't want it to be constrained. I want a rectangle. So I'm going to move that here. And then to change the stacking order in a layer. So in the layers panel, if you open it up and you expand the layer by tapping on this little triangle over here on the left of the layer name, you can see the stacking order of the layer. You can drag and drop, but there's a quicker way. In the quick selection menu under your shape or under your selection, there are pages that look like they're stacked on top of each other. If you tap on that icon, you can pull to the left to pull shapes down underneath other shapes, or you can pull to the right to pull shapes up or above other shapes. The red light and the green light are not in the right spacing, but we're going to change that in just a second. Let's select this white circle with the blue dot in the middle, so that way we can round out our edges slightly. There we go, so it looks like a traffic light. Double tap out to deselect. Let's tap both circles by holding down our touch selector and selecting both, and let's move them up. Double tap out to deselect, and there's our little icon. So he has his little accessory right here. I'm going to select all 3 shapes and group them. Let's make this a little bit smaller. There we go. So there's his shape. For the square character over here, I kind of want to do the umbrella. You guys know what the umbrella is. In my opinion, it was one of the hardest games that they played in the show. So let's do the umbrella. I'm going to do in a yellow color. Yellow is kind of analogous for him, which is fine. There we go. So for the umbrella, I'm going to choose the pen tool. Let's go into our layers panel, create a new layer. First, create the handle because the handle is the easy part. Swap the fill for the stroke. And then I'm going to increase the stroke weight. When you only have a stroke in the properties panel, if you scroll down here under stroke, it gives you tons of information about it. In the second row of options, it gives you options for what happens to the stroke on an endpoint. So when it comes to an end, like right here, the stroke is blunt. I don't want it to be blunt. I want it to be rounded. So the second option over here, it's grayed out. If you select it, it turns blue and it gives you a nice rounded cap right here, which is what we want for an umbrella. And we have a nice umbrella handle. Instead of using the pen tool to create the rest of the umbrella, I'm going to use the shape tool by selecting the sphere tool out of the shape tool grouping here. I'm going to make a nice big circle to start with. And then I'm going to make smaller circles. So let's duplicate this one, constrain the proportions down. I'm going to make 3 of these. I'm going to do one more that's going to encompass all of these here. Select them all. Choose our shape builder here underneath the combined shapes icon. Anything I don't want, I'm going to hold down the touch selector and it won't give it to me. We have our beautiful little umbrella here. Just round it out. Over here, same thing. We have the top of our umbrella. Move this into place right there, just like so. Instead of it being just a stroke, I'm going to give it the same fill color that it has as this stroke. Now we have our umbrella. They have little accessories that they can use, but the triangle doesn't need accessories because he's kind of like the boss. Although he's not the head boss, but he's the boss. So this is our Squid Game imposter. Who's the imposter? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a little play on words, fun illustration. So you guys can make your own if you would like to. If you do, go ahead and tag me. I do have an Instagram. I do try to post on there at least once a week, but I usually do stories. So if you guys would like to recreate this, go right ahead. I hope you all enjoyed your Halloween festivities if you celebrated, and I will see you all in my next video. See you soon, creatives.